him. I'm not.
I was blind, now I can see. You made a believer out of me. I was blind, now I can see. You made a believer out of me. Moving on up now.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. Welcome to another thrilling episode of that album.
That's a big word for us two talking. Thrilling.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Andrew. Nice to have you join us. So before we went live, Paul said, "So what do you reckon to the album?" And clearly, the fact that I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat and singing along gives you all the information you need about that. What an amazing week I've had. I mean, I cannot remember having enjoyed listening to an album for a week so much. Hi, Beth. It's been truly joyous. Now, obviously, I know some of the songs from this. I've not listened to the album before, though.
Yeah, it is, and joyous is a good word, and it's interesting hearing that snippet of the opening track moving on up with the gospel singers. That proper gospel feel to it is really, it really does want to make you hands in the air. Which I suppose, given the year it was released, was slap bang in the middle of the rave scene. So hands in the air was about right, wasn't it?
It was about right. So 1991, an interesting year, as they say, an interesting year. So in the news, Cannon Street train crash in London. The Gulf War begins. Tim Berners-Lee invented the internet. The Birmingham Six were freed. Business interest rates hit 17%. Nice.
Wow.
Bryan Adams was 15 weeks at number one.
Yeah, well, you can't have it all.
No, but on the upside, the IRA did launch a mortar attack against Downing Street. So it's not all bad news. And the Bank of Credit and Commerce International was switched off amid all of the frauds. Great year for films. Silence of the Lambs, Terminator 2, Point Break, Thelma and Louise, The Addams Family, Last Boy Scout, Sleeping with the Enemy, Commitments, Bill and Ted's Burgers Journey, Backdraft, Father of the Bride, and Dead Again.
I think all of those.
Sorry?
I think I've seen all of those films.
Yeah, absolutely. Pixie Lott, Ed Sheeran were born. Margot Fontaine.
Ham supporter. I've seen her at West Ham a couple of times.
Have you? Nice. Yeah. Margot Fontaine, Graham Greene, Robert Maxwell, and Freddie Mercury all died. In fact, I was standing outside by accident, by coincidence. I was standing outside Freddie Mercury's house when, in his last couple of days, there was a queue of people out there. Yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody got to number one at the end of the year, didn't he?
It did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hi, Saya. And music. What a year for music! Nevermind. Blue Lines, 10 by Pearl Jam, Achtung Baby, Metallica, The White Room by KLF, We Can't Dance, Genesis, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic, Leisure, Blur, Diamonds and Pearls, Out of Time, REM. Just unbelievable.
I feel like you're looking through my CD collection right now by reading out all those albums.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Before we came on with the Use Your Illusion albums by Guns N' Roses, which was my first introduction to a little bit more heavy rock.
And you went into that knowing you were going to hate it.
Yeah, but I absolutely loved it. I love those albums. They're so bloated and over the top. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, but as we were saying before we switched on, it was a funny time, wasn't it? 1991, the other side of the millennium, it was a very, very different place in the world. Very different place.
Yeah, it was. So I'm thinking that I would have been 20. So I've got to do some very basic arithmetic here, and I can't do it. So 91, I would have been 23, 24. Something like that.
24, 25.
24, 25. So for me, it was I bought my first house in 1991.
I probably bought my first place.
£59,000 for a brand new 2-bedroom house in Reading in Berkshire.
I bought a flat in Amersham and paid 52 or 53,000 for a 2-bedroom flat in Amersham.
Yeah, different times, Adam. Different times.
Yeah, absolutely. I bought my first proper car, a Ford Fiesta. I did a post about it the other day. Ford Fiesta XR2, silver with the pepper pot wheels. Oh, magic!
Yeah,
Absolutely
the
magic.
XR2 is so much better than the XR2i that replaced it.
Yeah. So yes, good point, LinkedIn user. Sorry, I don't know who you are. You actually had to buy music. You didn't just think, oh, I fancy listening to a bit of, and then scroll through everything that's ever been recorded. You actually had to go and buy the music.
The media of choice would have been a CD, surely. I mean, I know I've got tons. Well, there's a few of them there.
Yeah.
Tons of CDs from that period. And I've also got a lot of CD singles that I never play.
Yeah, I haven't got a CD single. Probably haven't even got a single CD single. I've got loads and loads of albums from this period, loads of albums of vinyl albums, and a fair few CDs. Ford Fiesta for the win. Yeah, absolutely. So here's a really interesting thing. So Primal Scream, clearly there are some tracks on here that are real bangers that everyone in the world has heard. I had no idea they came from Glasgow. No idea at all.
Okay.
So
yeah, very Scottish.
Yeah. So I'm obviously doing my research on this. The band has released 11 studio albums so far, and what's really interesting for me is that there was indie pop, Sonic Flower Groove, indie rock, Primal Scream, alternative rock, Acid House, this one, classic rock, Give Up But Don't Give Up, alternative rock, Electronic, Vanishing Point, alternative rock, industrial rock, Exterminator, and Evil Heat, classic rock, Riot Party. But it's like they're covering every imaginable genre, aren't they? It's like
they've got a dub album as well called Echo Deck that I love because it's a proper heavy reggae dub type album. They didn't just stick to one thing. I think that's really good. I mean, I was listening to the album that came after this, Give Out But Don't Give Up. But I was listening to the original Memphis Sessions version of that album while I was on my turbo training this morning. Because there's a great story behind this. The reason they released that original Memphis Sessions version is because they'd forgotten that they recorded that version, which is how they wanted it to sound. And the tapes just got left in the studios. And then years later, someone discovered these tapes and thought, what are these? Because they were on so many drugs at the time, they just forgot.
Yeah, well, I think what's really interesting is that reading about this, the album cover, where that came from. Did you read it?
Behind the album cover, yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it was created by the in-house Creation Records in-house artist Paul Connell. Connell was inspired by a damp water spot he'd seen on the Creation Records office's ceiling after taking an LSD trip. Just absolutely brilliant.
It is. It's an iconic album cover. It looks good in the T-shirt. There was a guitar that was out a few years back. There was, I think, might have been a Fender. My guitar knowledge is nowhere near yours, Adam. You might tell me otherwise, but I think it was a Fender special edition.
I don't know. I should feel obliged to go and buy one.
They had that album cover on it. Yeah. So yes, they were taking a lot of drugs, and as we were talking about just before we went live. And this was 3 maybe 4 years after Paul Oakenfold and some of the other big DJs at the time, Danny Rampling, and I'm going to forget his name completely now, but we're going to talk about him, Andrew Weatherall. They all went off to Ibiza just for a holiday because they just wanted to go to Ibiza, and came back having discovered ecstasy and the myriad sounds of Balearic beats that were being played in the clubs in Ibiza, and set up some of the big iconic acid house clubs in parts of London that are very touristy now, but weren't back then. So down Clink Street, for example, along the South Bank.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the album, bearing in mind that Nevermind, Blue Lines, Achtung Baby, Metallica, Blood Sugar, Sex Magic, Leisure, Diamonds and Pearls, Out of Time, etc. So all of these came out. This was Melody Maker's album of the year, Select's album of the year. It's in the top 135 in Colin Larkin's all-time 1,000 albums of you have to listen to. It was Pitchfork praised the album. There's a 2003 list of 100 top albums of the 90s. It just scores so highly in everybody's thoughts, despite the fact that it's up against such phenomenal competition. Just amazing.
I wonder if part of that it was such a groundbreaking album in terms of the genre. It really did bridge that indie music, dance music divide. The Stone Roses had started it a little bit with their first album a couple of years prior to that, but this was the first one that you thought, okay, I can dance to this, but actually, it's quite a good guitar album in places as well. So yeah, interesting. When we get on to talk about Loaded, I mean, the fact that is a remix. I mean, remix isn't a strong enough word. It's a complete reworking of a song that was one of their earlier albums, wasn't it? Which I hadn't heard until very recently. I knew that was how it had started, but I hadn't actually heard the original song.
And quite interesting, the story behind that, which we'll cover in a sec. First song, moving on up. What a way to start an album! Hey,
it's up there with one of the best opening tracks on an album, to sort of set your stall out as to what this album's going to be about, how it's going to make you feel. It's a pretty decent start.
Absolutely. And I Was Blind Now Because He Made a Believer Out of Me. Those lyrics were taken from the German rock band Can's 1969 song You Do Right in their debut album Monster Movie, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Who knew?
Number one.
Indeed. A great guitar solo on here as well. So here we go. Let's have a little burst of this.
Yeah.
I was blind, now I can see. You made a believer out of me. I was blind, now I can see. You made a believer out of me. I'm moving on up now. Get out of the darkness. My light shines on. My light shines on. My light shines on.
So just playing this on Apple Music, check out the animated logo.
Look at that. Oh yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
That's nice. I mean, just absolutely.
Adam, a couple of comments. So is it Saya? I don't know. Sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly. The Stone Roses, not seeing them live. I have seen the Stone Roses live. Andrew Slessor won't be surprised to hear that I've seen the Stone Roses live. I saw them a couple of times, and I was really pleased I did, but also really disappointed with Ian Brown's voice. He just can't really sing. But it was fantastic to see them live. But that's another story.
I didn't know you played the guitar, Saya. So much to be spoken about there. So let's have a little bit of that guitar solo, because that's just so gorgeous. You could just tell they're a bunch of guys having a real blast doing this, aren't they? It just, like you said, joyous. It just comes out, doesn't it, in every kind of pore of this.
Yeah, no, that's yes, I agree with that completely. So yeah, go and see John Scott. He's fantastic, or he's a fantastic guitarist.
Yeah, so track 2, Slip Inside This House. A great kind of dub beat. I
I didn't realize it was a cover until I was researching for today. I didn't realize it was a cover version.
Who's it a cover by? Because I didn't see that.
13th Floor Elevators.
Right. Yeah.
And they changed the lyrics. Primal Scream has changed the lyrics from "Slip Inside This House" to "Trip Inside This House," which obviously tells you where they were in their pharmaceutical ingestion.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought this has a very distinctly Iggy Pop feel to it. There's a bit of kind of Lust for Life going on in this.
Yeah.
Lustful life, lustful life.
Yeah. I mean, what I find with I think most tracks, if not all the tracks on this album, is they're all quite long. They weren't necessarily made to be singles, were they? Although there were single versions, especially when we come together later on, there were single versions made, and they all build, and the layers just keep piling on, don't they?
Yeah, there was one of them particularly that has that kind of Tubular Bellsy feel about it, you know, where it starts quite sparse and then gradually these textures are added over the length of the track.
I think whether or not it was a conscious decision, but they were definitely tracks that were built maybe for the club environment where they might have been mixed into other tracks. So you wouldn't necessarily into the intro where it was quite sparse, but you might have mixed out of or into something from that real bass heavy middle section. So
yeah. So don't fight it, feel it. Now I thought there's a definite left field vibe going on here, although. I'm
going to go early and say this has always been my favourite track on the album.
Right. Okay.
I think it's the most up for it. Let's go and have a dance type track. It's just a relentless beat, and I have danced to it. I probably will dance to it again in the future.
Are you going to give a little demo? No. So when I say it's got a left field vibe to it, obviously left field didn't arrive for another 4 years, so it's not like these guys were copying left field.
But we were saying earlier on, weren't we, Adam, about this seems like one of those albums where you can see bands that came after them, where they took ideas from this album.
Absolutely. I mean, this is I think you used the expression groundbreaking.
Yeah,
so many totally fresh ideas here. So this track, and it was really interesting reading about her, Denise Johnson, that is featured on this track, and reading her story. You know, very beautiful. And when she went into the club, and the club promoter that was looking for people to come and sing on stage, and he said, "If you can sing half as good as you look, you've got the job." And absolutely, and she toured with the Pet Shop Boys, and you can actually hear a sample of The Night in here, can't you? And she toured with Johnny Marr and Michael Hutchence as well. And sadly, she died at the age of 56 in 2020.
Yeah, fairly recently, wasn't it? I mean, I say fairly
2020.
It might. it was 2020. I thought, because with those COVID years, you always think, was it recently or was it actually 5 months ago?
Absolutely. So if we kick off with the beginning of this, and then I'll zip it forward a little bit to the Pet Shop Boys sample. I'll say it's a pet, but actually, what year did In the Night come out? It probably was before this. It probably is a sample, isn't it?
Yeah, it would have been.
I must say that this brings it all flooding back to me at this particular point in my life. I was running a business, and one of our clients owned the best nightclub in London, a club called the Hanover Grand in Hanover Square. And we often, myself and my business partner, often used to go there as VIPs. And this is exactly the sort of thing that would be playing when I walked into the club feeling really important.
Yes, absolutely. Just strutting into this. Yeah.
Exactly. I think this is a world that's made for me.
Yeah.
But and then I got old. Yeah, so I'll whiz it forward to the Pet Shop Boys song because
Rescue 1986 In the Night was released.
Right. So frontman Bobby Gillespie told Q magazine in 2008 that this was, and I quote, because clearly this is all drug fueled. This was written at 6 a.m, still up on E, listening to Northern Soul and thinking, let's write a song like that, except modern. And you can kind of see it, can't you? So here we go. Although obviously people of our generation, this is the theme song from the Clothes Show. So that would be more resonant perhaps than the Pet Shop Boys to many of us.
The Clothes Show. Yeah.
Yeah. So and again another the next track, Higher Than the Sun, says it all really, doesn't it?
I mean the sun is quite high, but I'm guessing there might have been another meaning to it.
Yeah. It says in my notes, this is a love song to ecstasy. It finds a tripped out Bobby Gillespie claiming to have achieved enlightenment through the drug. He told Q magazine, we realized that as a statement, knowing it wouldn't be a hit. Sorry, we released it as a statement knowing that it wouldn't be a hit. It's a piece of art.
Okay.
The run out groove message says, have you got note of this?
No.
The run out groove,
on the single or the album?
I assume on the single.
Okay.
It says, I get mine for 15. It refers to a discount Gillespie paid for 20. Yeah, I got mine for 15. It refers to the £15 discount Gillespie paid for £20 worth of ecstasy.
I mean, that message in the run out groove is we could do a whole show on that. And the fact that streaming and downloading music now, you don't get the thrill of hunting down a record you're looking for, B, the smell and the touch and everything that comes with opening a new record, but also looking to see what's scratched into the vinyl.
Yeah, absolutely. So this song samples Wah Wah Man, the 1971 track from the US soul and jazz instrumental musical ensemble, the Young Holt Unlimited Trio.
Okay.
So yes, so
waves.
Absolutely. You were thinking of doing them as the album, actually, weren't you? So here we go. Higher Than the Sun.
My brightest stars, my inner, let it guide me. Experience something innocent, leave inside me.
This, of course, is the Orb mix. Sorry?
I saw the Orb recently.
I missed that again. Sorry.
I was going to say I saw the Orb live recently
Oh, wow.
in a tiny little club in Reading.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very
You should go to more gigs, you know. You really should.
In my mind, beautiful, wasn't born to fall. I live just for today, I can't back tomorrow. What I got in my head, you can't buy, still born. I believe in late and let live. I believe you get what you get.
How cool is that? Melody Maker did a 2-piece feature just on this track.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, that to me is a definite sat outside Cafe Mambo in Ibiza watching the sunset track, or maybe even watching the sunrise.
Yeah. After having watched the sunset when having not moved. So Inner Flight.
Yes. In a Flight, I don't know. It's not my favourite track on the album, and if I don't know, it's all right. It fits in with the general vibe.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one that I thought this is very, very Dead Can Dance. Very Dead Can Dance. It's got the organ, it's got the voices used like instruments, and the lyrics just like singing, and the twinkly little kind of little cymbally things, you know, that you forget what they're called, the ones that you use like that with a bit of string between them that you had when you were at school. Yeah, so I like this. I like this kind of music. It's definitely sort of music to be listening to sitting alone with the lights off, isn't it?
Yes, no, definitely. And your headphones on and just shutting everyone out, listening to the music properly.
Absolutely. Someone definitely needs to do a Dead Can Dance album with me at some point. I mean, I love that because it's kind of just soothing and it washes over you, and it's.
See, I think if I'd been out, right, and if I look at that, because is that the first side of the album? If we're talking vinyl terms, I think it is. We've done that. So if I look at Moving On Up, Step Inside This House, Don't Fight It, Feel It, that's my being up and out and in the, having my pre-drinks in the pub and going to a club. Higher Than the Sun is on the way home, seeing the sunrise, and In a Flight, I don't think I'd have made it to the end of the track before I fell asleep. That would be my night out if side one was a night out.
Yeah, nice. So Come Together, really interesting track, this, isn't it?
It's I remember at the time when I heard the album version, and I think I might have heard the single version first, or I don't know. There was something where I was disappointed with this version, but over the years I've grown to love this version, and the single version. That's not the same track now, because this is brilliant.
Yeah. So this samples some dialogue performed by Natasha Kinski from the film Paris, Texas, which I didn't know. The guitar riff is lifted from Elvis Presley's Suspicious Minds. As you said, there are two versions of this track: the original Terry Farley one with Bobby Gillespie's vocals, and the instrumental remix by Andy Weatherall. That samples
so this which just takes Bobby Gillespie out of it altogether. And focuses on the gospel singers towards the end of the track. But it's about 10 minutes. Is it actually 10 minutes and something, or just under?
It's 10 minutes 19. So it's a reasonably lengthy track that we probably won't play all of. But it's lovely. So yeah, let's have a little bit at the start and then whiz it forward a bit, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting that you should say that. So it says here in my notes, the Gospel House song was the first track Primal Scream recorded for this album, and it became the record's centerpiece, which I guess so. It's a big work, isn't it?
We are together. We are unified and on one accord. Because together we got power. Apart we got power. Today on this program you will hear gospel and rhythm and blues and jazz. All those are just labels. We know that music is music.
It's really interesting, isn't it, how the track morphs throughout its entire length.
So those layers I mentioned earlier on, they come in at the start, don't they? And it goes on a little journey, doesn't it? A bit like a DJ taking people on a journey in a club. It goes on a little journey all of its own, which is just brilliant.
Yeah, which brings us on to another famous track of theirs, Loaded. Now, there's such a great story with this, isn't there?
Yeah, so it's a remix, but it's not, is it? It's a complete reworking of the track. I'm losing more than I'll ever have. Is that? Yeah. I think that's what it's called. Which, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't hear until fairly recently, and that track in itself is an all right indie pop rock type song with a nice little bit at the end, with the trumpets, but this Loaded with the samples and the beat that was taken off a dodgy remix someone did of a Kylie track, I think. It's sort of funky drummer-esque type beat to it. It's just brilliant. Mr. Weatherall did a good job with this.
So I love the kind of story. So they became aware of this Andrew Weatherall after he published a favourable review of their second album. And having subsequently met him at an acid house party, which he was DJing, they became friends. And through various meetings later, it suggested that he should remix "I'm Losing More Than I'll Ever Have" from the album work, for which he was to receive a fee of £500.
Okay.
So his first attempt, which later described as basically just having slung in a kick drum under the original, was judged by the band to have been too reverential to the source material and was rejected. Guitarist Andrew and his instructor were to instead, excuse my language, just fucking destroy it. His subsequent attempt abandoned all of the original track with the exception of a 7-second sample, which is just unreal, isn't it? So, I mean, this is not like remixing. This is completely reinventing.
Yeah.
And
a reimagining of...
Yeah.
And the sample was the trumpets bit, wasn't it? That you hear all the way through. That's where you hear the original song.
Yeah, and asked by NME how all of the samples for this song and the other Screamadelica tracks were cleared, Gillespie gave a curious response. He said, "I don't know what you're talking about." So clearly he hadn't actually cleared any of this. Imagine if we hadn't got the Fonda line, though. He said, we wouldn't be sat here now. So really, really fascinating. So here we go. Loaded.
Just what is it that you want to do?
Well, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. And we want to get loaded. And we want to have a good time. And that's what we're going to do.
Well, wait, baby, let's go.
We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a party.
Evidenced by the fact that we're both just bopping away to this.
From the, that it's one of those tracks I remember when I first heard it, I just stopped dead in what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because the sample, and you think, well, what's this? Where's this going to go? And then the trumpet sample, and then it goes into that funky drummer-esque type beat, and you just like, yeah, this is cool. This is cool. It was very different, and I just love it. I just love it.
So Gillespie said in an interview with NME in 2011, we just did Loaded as an experiment. There was nothing in it for us anyway, so we just had nothing to lose. There was no game plan with Weatherall at all. We didn't think that we were going to get famous and rich. We didn't think we were going to get a hit. We're just trying to make a record that we could play this scene and people would dance to it. So it's really interesting, isn't it, that often these artists that are so influential and pivotal, they don't realise the effect that they're having on music and society and culture.
No, because no one goes out. I don't think anyone's going to say we're going to make an album that's going to change the course of where music's going to go from now. Because that would just be that'd be too big a thing to take on. Surely, you might want to experiment and try something, but for something then to take on the life that it did and become the album of a generation, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of those tracks like Moving On Up where you just hear it in so many different places. It's so kind of ubiquitous almost, isn't it? So,
I used to use loads on sports programs, on football highlight programs, all that sort of stuff. Actually, going back to the beat, it wasn't a Kylie song that there was a dodgy remix of. It was a bootleg remix of Edie Brickell's "What I Am" is where he lifted the beat from.
Right. Let's have a little bit more of that, shall we? Fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
I'm pretty certain, and it's, I don't know, it probably says something about the times. I'm not that 100% certain, but pretty certain I have seen Paul Team live at Reading Festival in about 1994, I think it was. But I don't really remember anything about the set. Now, I'm not going to say anything else about that because they would have played things like this, and I don't have any real memory of them and how it went down with the crowd and all that sort of stuff. It's very interesting. I was racking the dark recesses of my memory, trying to think a little bit more about that. But yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
94. Yeah.
So, Damaged. So two things that jump out at me for this. First of all, you can absolutely see where the Stereophonics got their inspiration for Handbags and Gladrags from with this track, because it's very, very theme orientated, and clearly, Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis is just stolen from this in the way that they steal from anyone they can, but primarily the Beatles. So let's have a bit of a blast of this.
Sweet some days when I was feeling something. Just you, me, girl, was a beautiful man. So happy.
I'm sorry, I can't help but think of Wernham Hogg here, and cutting into that entry from The Office. But this bit is just, I do hope that they got paid for this by Oasis.
Never been so happy. I'll never feel
Sorry?
And So Sally Can Wait. That was the next line, wasn't
it? Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, isn't it?
The thing is, Adam, I'd not picked that up myself until you said it, but now I've heard it. I'm never going to unhear that.
No, I am sorry, but it is just it's even in the same key. The only difference is that the triads of that are around the other way, but other than that, it's exactly the same. And I just find it disappointing when somebody can pick something up like that, steal it, and put it in, make it the basis of one of their songs, and make more money than the original.
Yeah. So there's only so many notes, though, isn't there, that you can use to create a song. At some point, you're gonna. It's whether or not they've actually lifted it. Actually made a conscious decision to lift it, or just been influenced by something and therefore made something because they've been listening to something else. I don't know. But it's Oasis, so I reckon it was a conscious decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a little bit more, but let's try not to sing So Sally Can Wait.
People can be gracious, but they won't keep. I get too possessive, but so's it. You're my addiction, like a strung out reason. Hit me like a fever when you left me. Stop, stop, stop. I want you. Stop, stop, stop. I want you. Stop, stop.
Nice.
That's the song on this album that would fit very nicely on the following album as well, on Give Out But Don't Give Up, which was a little bit more rocky, a little bit more bluesy, and that would fit quite nicely with the track listing on the album to follow this up.
Right. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's because I listened to that album this morning, and listening to this now, it's like, oh yeah, I can see where that would have morphed into the next album, which was a different sound, but that would fit nicely.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting to do that, isn't it? To listen to consecutive albums and see whether or not a band is kind of just treading water, or whether or not they are kind of developing. And
I think, as you mentioned right at the start, Adam, with the different type of album or the different genre they might have be classed as the different albums. Primal Scream have never stood still. I don't think they've ever trod water. They've definitely always tried to push it a little bit far and try something that, like again, Madonna, try something that is more in fashion, shall we say, is more of that moment. Well, let's make an album like. But then I don't know, because you mentioned Acton Baby is one of the other albums that came out in 91. That's definitely, that changed U2, didn't it? That took them in a different direction.
Very much so. And it was interesting because they became a much more serious band, didn't they? I mean, not they were not smiling as much, but they became the music became heavier and more I don't know, demanding, I guess, to listen to.
Also, I mean, and you've already covered Acton Baby with Eric, didn't you? When you
no, it's
Andrew. Oh, okay. Because that was the album that saved the band, because they were going through a rocky patch, weren't they? And I think it was the song One was the song that was written, and they thought, hang on, there is a reason for us still to be a band, because we've got a song like that. That's another one of my favourite albums from that period. So I'm one of my favourite albums, full stop. In fact, the track One was mine and my wife's first dance.
Nice. I mean, for me, so much of the... Sorry?
Yeah, we didn't know what the song was about when we chose it as first dance, but we just like the sound of it.
Yeah, no, it's as good a reason as any, isn't it? But I think that one of the things that was really interesting about that album is that that for me was very intertwined with the fall of the Berlin Wall, and lots of the imagery was that, and lots of it was used as a backdrop for that, and the two for me go very much hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So I'm coming down, and about time too, isn't it? Let's be honest, they've been ingesting quite a lot of stuff. Drifting. I've been so high, I never wanted to come down. I've been so lost, I never wanted to be found. I'm all hungover with the bad dreams. And
I'm sure I read this somewhere when I was doing a bit of research this week, but that ties in quite nicely with Pulp's track "Sorted Reason Whiz" and some of the lyrics for that, where it talks about leaving a bit of his brain in a field in Hampshire when he was, which is very Jarvis Cocker, but same sort of vibe about being at a rave in a field.
Yeah. Happy days. Happy days. So,
different time.
Yeah.
Finding a phone box and phoning a number and getting directions as to where it was, and abandoning cars in country lanes.
Absolutely. This definitely has that vibe about it, doesn't it? Where, I'm running out of steam now and just starting to yeah.
Just get back to my car and I want to have a kip on the back seat before I drive home.
Absolutely. Those hay bales look very inviting, don't they?
Yeah.
So and now we're on to the penultimate track, Higher Than the Sun, the second Higher Than the Sun, isn't it, of the album?
A dub in 2 parts.
Yeah. A dub symphony in 2 parts. And my note on this is, I think you probably needed to have ingested something to get the most from this. I mean,
I think right. And again, I think I read somewhere this week that Bobby Gillespie was saying that they were sort of taking the piss when they put this on, because it's like, well, let's see what people are listening to, type thing. Or maybe that was in one of the reviews. It might have been a review that I read about this track and how it fitted in with everything. Yeah, but yeah, of the time,
I can believe it. Another long track as well, 7 minutes 33 seconds. This is you asleep in the back of the car, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you need to be looking at the album sleeve, don't you? You need to be looking at that, the ceiling spot. Yeah.
But yeah, Joe Wobble on bass. I saw someone Dan mentioned that. I mean, Joe Wobble's one of my favourite names ever.
Yeah.
LinkedIn user. It's a shame we can't see your name on here. I think we'll be able to see it back in the chat later on. But Different Class, yeah, it is a masterpiece of an album, and maybe something to consider for the future if it hasn't been done already. Adam.
Yeah.
A different.
I'm just looking to see if I can see who it is that's LinkedIn user, but I can't in my comments, unfortunately. Which brings us on to the last track.
Right, Shine Like Stars.
Which is a shame. Shine Like Stars. I just thought this was a lovely, soothing way to make the album. Very relaxing, very Dead Can Dance in terms of the vibe of this. Very, very pleasurable listen, and rounded it off really nicely.
Yes, no, definitely. And shine like stars. I mean, there's a nice sentiment in that, isn't there, for all of us?
Yeah,
We should all shine like stars.
absolutely.
I watch you sleep, you look so peaceful. You look so fired up, well, I feel scared for you. To me, you're precious, and you always shine like a star. Shine like a star. Shine like a star.
Wow.
I'm just feeling a little bit sleepy now.
Yeah, it's nice. What a lovely end to a Friday. Hey.
It is. Adam Broadway, yes, Get Carter. And as soon as I see that, you think of the Human League version of it on the album there, because that's the first time I ever heard that theme tune was the Human League's version. But yes, I can see the similarities there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean I've loved this album. Absolutely loved it. You know, what can I say? Thank you so much for bringing this one forward, because
right, it is one of my favourites. I mean, I can never actually decide on what my favourite albums are, but this would definitely be up there. If there was a top 10, would it be a top 5? It might well be a top 5, but I never actually want to give too much thought to that because it would hurt my brain too much.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that one of the things that I have found from doing this show has been that a series of good tracks and a good album are not the same thing necessarily. And albums that have got real toe tappers on, albums that you think, oh, brilliant artist, fantastic collection of tracks. Sometimes when you listen to them through the lens of really listening to the album rather than just having it wash over you, you think, actually, it's not all that. So, but this has been absolutely fantastic. Great album, great way to round out the week. What fantastic comments and engagement from the audience. Thank you all. So,
I've been loving looking at the conversation that's going on. That's been going all over the place in terms of other bands that people want to talk about, and people that are regular listeners, but also people that are here for the first time. It's been lovely. What a lovely little community you've created.
Well, we've created.
Or is it?
We've created. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I love is that this. When you find somebody that's passionate about a particular piece of music that you're not familiar with, it opens the door for you to that piece of music, and this I think is a great example of that. So
yeah, I've had that before. When I did a similar thing to this during lockdown at the company I was working at, and made a lot of friends that I still talk to now via WhatsApp about all sorts of things to do with music. It was internal to the company, but it wasn't necessarily people that I knew. And there were albums there that people suggested listening to that I'd never listened to. There was a Lord album that I'd never listened to, and I would have never listened to it. But actually, like you say, hearing someone who is enthusiastic about that artist or that particular album just makes you listen to it properly and listen to it with open ears. Where sometimes you might think, well, I'm not going to listen to that because I don't like that type of music.
So, everybody, thank you all very much. Thank you, Paul, obviously, Pauladelica. Thank you, everybody in the audience. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.